Welcome to the Room, a space where stories of service, leadership, and learning come together. Hi, I am Rahul Modi from the Leo Club of Mumbai Carter Road, and this is where Leos meet lions, leaders, and dreamers who are creating change in their own way. For anyone who's tuning in for the first time, the Leo Club is a youth wing of Lions International Family. We are young minds under 30 who believe that small acts of kindness can build a big change. This is just not about being a lion or Leo. It's about being real. Every episode, I sit down with someone who's chasing a purpose over perfection. Someone whose story might just remind us that serving others begins with knowing ourselves. So buckle up because in here, it's not about roaring the loudest, it's about roaring with the heart.
Room's here to stay. Thoughts collide like a thunderclap. Snaps and laughs bridge the gap. It's not just talk, it's a loud roadmap. Roar it out, make it clear. The room's alive, the sound sincere. This is the Roar Room. You're welcome here.
Our guest today is someone who has mastered both the courtroom of tennis and the boardrooms of business. He's a former national level tennis player, a cricket club captain from the UK, and now CMO CSO of the Gretex group. In his years of experience, he has been one of those rare lions who truly walks the talk, balancing analytics with empathy and service with success. In this episode, we dive into his journey from sports to strategy, how discipline from the field translates into leadership, and the mindset that helps him keep learning, growing, and roaring forward. By the end of this episode, you will discover how a champion's mindset can turn every setback into a strategy, whether you are on the court, in a meeting, or leading a cause. We welcome today Lion Navdeep Nigam. Hi Navdeep, how are you? How's your day?
Really good, Rahul. Thank you so much. Pleasure being here.
So, you're here at being 36, already CMO of a company, CSO of a company, and not to just any company, Gretex. How does it feel?
Feels great, actually. I mean, it was basically an illusion when I actually got this particular job for me. Realization came very late because once you actually get on with the work and stuff, C-suite job, obviously, at such an early age, obviously seems to be an illusion.
Yes.
But when you get into the thick of things, it obviously, borrows down to kind of like things wherein you understand that, what the job role is and what it demands.
Definitely from this podcast, there's a lot of things that everybody can learn. I don't think there's a person from any age group who will not learn something from you.
Yeah, very kind of you to say that, but I believe I've been multifaceted since a very early age. Obviously, when we talk about the experiences throughout my journey, we'll obviously delve into them.
So talking about journey, let's start with your very initial days. I would want to know where you started your schooling, where you did your engineering, and how did you get into your masters?
So I think pretty much a normal journey, like every Indian boy. I started off my schooling in Ahmedabad. My parents obviously were settled out there, so finished off KG to 10th standard at St. Xavier's Loyola Hall. Post which I came to Bombay. My father got transferred to Bombay, so we came to Bombay. I finished off my 11th and 12th, which is first year and second year of junior college. So I finished that off here in RD National College in Bangalore. Post which I went to do my bachelor's in computer science and engineering from Bhopal, Rajiv Gandhi University. And post which I came back and the usual that every single Indian boy experiences. That you get a chance to do your masters or you have to choose in terms of getting a job. So we had a pact. 3 of us were friends who actually pursued our engineering together.
Yes.
So all of us were sitting one night on the terrace where we used to rent out the place during our engineering, and we were sitting. And we suddenly saw this course called International Business and Management. So, the 1-year courses for the management out there are pretty hectic, pretty extensive. But at the same time, I believe they are one of the best in the world.
So I know that you were just not doing your engineering or your masters. You were actually excelling parallelly there also in 2 different fields. So one was your studies and engineering and doing your masters at the same time. You wore the India court, you represented India in tennis, and then you became the captain for VVS Lakshman Club. Tell me more about it.
So, as I told you, Rahul, since my childhood, we have used to have a very, very big core of a sporting culture in my school. We had, if I describe my school in today's day and age, a lot of people are not able to even fathom the fact that you can actually have a school like that.
Okay.
Just to give you a simple gist, I think we had a full-fledged cricket ground, skating rinks and swimming pools, the works, whatever you might think of in a dream school. Sometimes I used to actually, only place I'm actually able to relate that school to is probably a Karan Johar movie.
I'm about to say that.
Yeah. I took up tennis when I was I think 10 years old or 11 years old.
Okay.
And quickly...
That is what? 6, 7 standard.
Yeah, probably. And quickly got a hang of it very well. I love the sport. It's a very competitive sport, and being an individual sport, it actually helps you a lot more to develop. So I was playing parallel state level tennis, and then got into nationals during my 10th standard, and then I got transferred. So, everything has been, it's been a roller coaster ride, of course.
Tell me, elaborate more upon how nationals was. What are the new things that you got to experience?
So in 10th standard, I was playing nationals.
Okay.
Playing the nationals obviously is you play around the ITA tournaments, which is All India Tennis Association.
Okay.
You play that, and it's a rigorous road, because and a lot of people don't talk about it that much because and everyone is basically associated only to the glamour quotient of it. Boards used to be a massive concept during my time. It's all the cables used to get cut in the house, and you used to have like...
Oh, they happen still.
Oh yes, and the parents used to be extremely paranoid about the fact. But my parents were very chilled out. I think one of the major reasons I've been able to excel in multitudes of things in my life is because of my parents. Or probably some days they just kind of like gave up. But yeah, I think that is one of the reasons why I actually could do so many things together. And post 10th standard, of course, when I came to Mumbai, I actually lost total touch with tennis, with everything else, in fact, because 11th, 12th kind of took its toll. And when you're a son to parents coming from the IITs, it's obviously it's a little bit of pressure that goes in, even if you don't take it. And so I finished that off, and when I went to Bhopal to do my engineering, and no offense to Bhopal, but it's a quiet city. And that's when I realized that there was a national stadium out there. And that's when I resumed my tennis again. And post which, of course, 8 months, 9 months down the line, soft tennis comes in as a new sport. And, major national players around India are called up, and, we get a chance to kind of like prepare for a camp. Next thing I know that, there's a offer to play for India in the World Championships in Japan. And yeah, that's how it happened. And I was doing my engineering. It was the second year of engineering. So, I bring up the sporting aspect, of course, along with the academics that I was doing. But apart from that, it was not that I was, only subject to that. I was taking part in paper presentations at IITs. I was doing a lot of robotics at the college.
But then you eventually gained up on cricket also, and then you became a captain in VVS Lakshman Club.
Oh yeah,
that too in London.
That was years later. That was years later. I finished off playing quite a few world championships for India during my engineering. I was on the circuit for tennis for quite some time. Post engineering, I obviously went to England. And when I went to England and started my masters and stuff, and when I went there, the ease at which you could actually approach academies and get a chance to play cricket was massive. I started off with Division 4 and I went up to Division 1. So, played in the primary division. There was this new club, as you mentioned, VVS Cricket Club. And within a year, I became captain. And we won the Division C trophy, Division B trophy, and finally the A2. So it was a great journey out there in cricket also. Ventured in a lot more other clubs. Yeah.
So post this, you got your main actual career started. But right before we jump into that, I would want to know, how was it to represent India, and what were the challenges that you faced there, and what is different that you saw there?
Well, I think if I go back, it's a very sentimental flashback for me whenever I go back that particular lane. I still remember that I was in Delhi. We had we had to go and meet the ministry there before leaving for Japan, and the blazer for India was delivered. It was fantastic. Very surreal feeling. You're technically never able to sink in that particular feeling. Playing for India is a pride. You're representing so many people. It's a massive thing. And at the same time, in your first World Championship, you get a chance to kind of captain the team, even if it was a junior World Championship, which I was doing. It's a great feeling. It's something which I can't describe. It's a feeling of a lot of responsibility. Kind of gives you a lot of perspective about life also. You become a team player. You start valuing people more. It's fantastic. I think one of the biggest bummers in my life was when I had already left to do my masters. I was there in England, and when I got the letter that I had gotten selected to play the Asian Games, those that were going to be held in China, and I couldn't come back to join the team for that. That is, I think, one of the biggest regrets that I have. Otherwise it would have been really fancy to kind of like play for India at the Asian Games.
You were all the time, be it your career, be it your studies, be it your sports, always you were doing multiple things at the same time. You were just not focused to one thing or sticking to one thing, which I feel which led to you getting successful so early in your life. What is one advice that you would want to give to today's youth? Because what general mindset today has built is focus on one thing and just stick to that and keep doing it, rather than not experimenting with the new things and giving it a try. People nowadays are more concerned with their own image rather than the impact of the things that they can have and the kind of things that they can try.
I think when you said that, they're conscious about their own image, I think free spirit was something which is a notion for the millennials. It was fabulous for them, for me. I'm a millennial myself, and it was good for me because we were in an era where we were evolving from being probably a country with not too much amount of brands and stuff and all, to a country which became number one. My advice to the youth would always be to kind of like, what I do in Leo clubs also, is to kind of like venture every aspect that you can. I don't propagate the fact very clearly that, you should just basically not concentrate on one particular thing. Sometimes it's extremely important to kind of do so, but at the same time, I believe the kind of learning that I've had, just by venturing into various aspects of life, it's my personal opinion, that it gives you a little bit of an edge. At the same time, you become a lot more confident as an individual, I believe. That, you got abilities to kind of like take up your careers to different places. You can venture into anything. Like I'm doing a podcast today. I probably must have never thought 10 years before that I might be doing a podcast. But at the same time, I believe a little bit of know-how is always important. Gone are the times like I had during my day where even searching about something used to kind of like take a lot more time. And
today AI has make it very simple.
The information assimilation used to take a lot more time. The amount of knowledge gaining used to take a lot more time. You had to read a lot more books.
That's awesome. I hope that helps a lot of our viewers at this moment. Now, I would want to jump into your career and want to know how it started, where it started, and how has that led you to become a CMO and CSO of a company?
So I'm a software engineer. I did my master's in international business and management. People talk about modules. People talk about, taking interest in terms of what is being taught to you, what is not being taught to you, if something's being covered during your academic portions. I believe it's important, but to a certain level. Because when you join any job in your life, it's always going to be something which I believe, which has happened with me also, that you technically learn on the job.
Yes.
You learn on the job, no matter if you join 2 software companies also, even then, there might be a difference in philosophy, there might be a difference in the way they operate. And honestly speaking, a lot of times we see in the last decade or so that it's not always the academic nerds who actually end up getting great jobs. I initially started off my job working for Lloyds Banking Group in England, and
that was which year?
I finished off my master's in 2011, so probably that end. Before that, I was even working for the university as a research assistant and as an enrollment assistant. That taught me quite a bit. Parallelly, during my master's also, I was doing internships with regards to marketing and sales. Post which, I was also associated to this group called European Center for Best Practice Management, where I took up a lot of projects based out of Dubai. That's where they wanted to explore the markets. So a lot of research analysis and data analytics came into play there. Post which I obviously got a chance to come here, and I started off in my journey in India. Actually, started off working for a startup.
Okay.
It was based out of Lower Parel. But
this was which year?
This was around 2015.
Okay.
Yeah. Post which I was parallelly, again, as you know, my nature was I was also doing a stint as a sports manager.
Okay.
So while I was doing and working for this startup, I was doing a sports manager stint with VVS Lakshman Club, who had given me so much in cricket also. So various genres, not something which is related to the initial degree that I did or probably the master's degree that I did. Post which, a very lucrative opportunity at Capita, which is another company. They were setting up their analytics department. That's where I got in. And that was a very good experience, very fulfilling 2 years of my life. Post which came a time when I joined a job which I've, which probably has the most tenure when it comes to working professionalism for me, which was Equancy. It's basically a data analytics and consulting company that's based out of Paris. They had their corporate HQ in Dubai, and they were wanting to start operations in India. That's where I came in and got a job at a very high post out there because obviously we were setting up operations here. Post that, well, I was working for this company called Retaji Industries just for some time as an independent director, giving my services as a freelancer also. Before I got a call from Gretex, and Gretex offered me, a fantastic opportunity, a C-suite level job, something that they saw probably in my interview or also the experiences that I described to them. And I got the chief marketing officer job and the chief strategy officer job, which was something which is a dream for me, of course. Getting that at 34 and now operating since last 1.5, 2 years almost. It's been a fabulous experience.
Like we were talking, with great powers comes great responsibilities. And now that you are a C-suite level employee, there are a lot of things that would have changed in your life. There would have been upsides and downsides of having that thing.
Being a C-suite employee, obviously, as you mentioned, has its ups and downs. Like every single post, it does. But you get a lot of access. When I talk about the upsides, access becomes very easy. Approaching a particular company or approaching individuals, even approaching credit card companies becomes a very simple thing for you. Because obviously the position speaks for itself. It's got a massive pedigree. It puts you into a decision-making role for sure. When it comes to the downsides, I would not directly call it downsides, but I would just say that it becomes much more extensive as a job. I don't remember in my entire tenure of professionalism of around 13 to 14 years of my working that I have ever worked on a Saturday. But when I assumed the C-suite job, Saturdays became working for me. And at the same time, decision making, which actually impacts the company on a direct level, is I think one of the biggest pressures that a C-suite level job carries. What it takes to be there, I believe just an open mind. Just be open in your mind. Just try and think about how you want to kind of like structure your career. How bold are you as an individual to take up responsibility? If you are not potent in something, how can you become more potent? And obviously the overall, the basic works of knowing the overall understandings of the market and probably presenting yourself in the best possible manner.
So you've seen the industry evolve in multiple ways. Right now, the AI wave is going on, which is changing a lot of factors specifically for marketing when it comes to creators, when it comes to analytics, when it comes to how people perceive the content and how even those content is being made. And knowing in this particularly AI era, what is right and what is wrong and how authentic some information is has become very, very hard. So how do you deal with those challenges and how do you feel AI has affected your particular domain?
See, marketing is one of those fields which technically no one would ever be able to perceive the fact that, whether it's actually right or wrong. Nothing technically is right or wrong when it comes to marketing. What works. What doesn't work, doesn't work.
True.
Sometimes fantastic campaigns are deployed at the best levels and they don't work. And you're just kept wondering why did it not work. When it comes to digital deployment of campaigns, the audience to the targets to everything that has been deployed is fantastic. And sometimes even a production of probably 2 CR or 3 CR in making something which is worthwhile doesn't work. So, something right or wrong in the marketing section doesn't really apply when it comes to AI. But I believe still the perception of AI in India is very, very naive. But I think AI interventions are going to be important. They're going to be easy to kind of like delve into. But at the same time, you also need to understand that like a functioning algorithm, when you initially need to set that algorithm, you need to kind of code it in a particular manner. You need to deploy contingencies. You need to understand everything that is there on the left, right, center of that particular algorithm and post that you deploy it, like an Excel, like a Microsoft Excel, which is still working in 95% or probably more industries as well as companies in India and in the world, in fact. But when it comes to AI, there's also a masterful application that you need to have. There's a masterful understanding that you need to have. And at the same time, I believe AI is always going to be a technology like we've had analytics, like we've had softwares, like we've had everything else. It's never going to be something which is going to be, the primary face of running a business. Because in today's day and age also, and since the world has been, there have been too many abject interventions of the various kinds of advancements that have come in, but the humanoid is something which is always going to be staying in top, I believe there.
True. Human touch is always needed, and specifically in marketing when you're trying to represent any brand or the product, and at the end you're targeting humans only. So if there is no human touch, and now how people are just getting in AI avatars to do the videos, and they're practically making AI do all the podcasts on the topic that they want.
True.
That still loses the sense of being a human at the end of the day. That also brings up the topic of, yes, what you said, ki authenticity is one thing, but if it works, it works. It has definitely made lives easier.
Oh yes, absolutely.
One thing, now that your career and all of this has happened and you are at a very good point in your life, also parallelly, now I would want to bring on to the topic of how you became a Lion.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that you brought into the club? You are one of the most spoke about person. I'm very, very new to the club, but you are one of the people that I've heard the most about. One, I would want to start with, how did you actually got into it?
Okay, so, from career to Lionism, it's a big move, of course. But honestly speaking, I told you a little about my life journey. But coming into Lionism, obviously, if I give you a broader perspective, it was around 2018 when I thought about getting into Lionism. One of my mother's sister is already been a Lion since more than 25 years now.
Okay.
And there was obviously this push from her end that you join Lions International. It's a fantastic organization and stuff. And that's when I looked up Lionism. I looked up how could I actually delve into probably doing an executive MBA somewhere down the line. 10 years down my career, probably do an executive MBA. And that's where in 2018 I saw two things very specifically. Lions International was one of the organizations that was considered and given a lot of impetus when it came to Ivy League college admissions. So I thought that's a great start, and that can be a great social profile. It's one of the only organizations in the world which has 100% ratio of spending charity money for charity. There's nothing that they use for administrative costs. That was another big thing for me. And the other thing that was there that drove me towards Lionism was globally, when I talk about the organization, was the fact that Lions International is one of the only organizations which delves into so many vast genres of service. When I talk about domestically, Lions Club of Mumbai Soul was a club where my Masi was already there, my mother's sister. But at the same time, it had a group of tremendously influential people to whom, meeting them probably on a daily basis is something which you or me would not get a chance to do so.
So you joined Lions in 2018.
18, yes.
And since then, how has your journey been?
So the first 2 years, as every Lion, you're getting to know the system. You're trying to understand things. Me being an engineer myself, most of the things are not given to you. You end up learning them, and you dig up whatever's available. So I went through the website, the basic understanding of how to understand Lionism. Within a year, I became one of the most knowledgeable persons in Lionism, which was technically a facade for me because I had just gone through the website, and tried to know about the organization. My first two roles, of course, in 2018-19 cycle and 19-20 cycle were to do as board of director for sports the first year. Second was to do with iCamps. So I did a lot there, whatever I could with regards to the innovation that I had. The 2020-21 cycle is where I got a chance to be the club advisor for Leo Club of Mumbai Soul. And that's where I started mentoring the youth. And that's where I think, my shaping of a Lion actually became much more extensive because I was already dealing with the Lions who were, from the age of 30 to probably 55, 60. But at the same time, when I got into, being a club advisor and, handling people from the age of 18 to 30, we were doing a lot of things when it comes to service and stuff, but we were not all exploiting a lot more of our potential, which we should. That's something which I wanted to do. So after, being 2 years of club advisor in 2021 and 21-22, I won the awards at the multiple, at the district, even at the international, I got awarded and stuff. So post that, I got a chance in 2022 to be the advisor for the entire district. That's technically a district ranging from Bandra to Talasari, which is Tarapur and stuff. And that's when I believe, the overall potential went to the max because the variety that Leo District 3231A3 has in terms of the Leos ranging from this entire suburb region is unbelievable. And that's where I had to learn myself because, on one hand, I'm dealing with a person like you who's a creator, who's someone who's a very, very big intellectual himself. At the same time, you're dealing with people who come from very, very humble backgrounds, wanting to do something more in life. And that's when I kind of like tried to understand Lionism more on a level where I could help all of these people in their social profiles, in their intellectual profiles, in terms of making them reach out to local authorities, state authorities, central authorities, make them people who would ultimately probably in the next 10 years make an impact overall in the Indian diaspora, in India as well as outside. That's how I kind of like molded my Lionism journey.
So you're saying 2022 you are the district advisor.
Yep.
Then 2023 what happened?
2023-24 I continued as district advisor for the second year. If I may talk about the district awards, we kind of like swept awards at multiple in 22-23, in 23-24, and I've been reinstated as advisor for the district this year in 25-26, and it was a great stint in 24-25 also. But I was working initially unofficially, but then obviously I got into the system because that is how I like to operate. I don't like to kind of like work unofficially. And
So now that you're operating a bridge between Lions and Leos, and both of them are doing tremendous amount of things, what is that you see as different between both of them? And how do you feel acting as a bridge between them?
See, when it comes to Lions International, there are various aspects you can do. You do fellowships, you try to network with people. These days, the business angle is also there. Everyone tries to benefit also at the same time so that they can work more in harmony. When it comes to the service aspects, I can just very proudly say that it's absolutely the same. The Leos are as attached to service projects as the Lions are. They are both wanting to help as much community as they can. They both work with a lot of zeal and stuff. But I believe, the best culmination would obviously be both of them working in sync. Because the amount of contacts that the Lions have, the amount of networks that the Lions have, obviously because of their tenure in life as well as Lions, is a lot more. And I believe sometimes the Leos are not able to exploit that. And at the same time, the openness that the Lions should have in terms of incorporating Leos and giving them a free hand in terms of working so that the best potential of the entire organization is realized is also something which is, a gap. That's where I've tried to kind of like bridge that particular part.
So there is Lions who are very, very matured and they have a certain amount of experience that they carry with them, not only in terms of being a Lion, but in terms of professionally also. And the way they do things is a very matured and a very professional way. Whereas there is an age group of 18 to 30 people who are Leos at the moment, who are not that matured, but then they are very tech savvy. They have a lot of things that they can do and probably Lions can benefit out of it. So something like that, which can be a good learning for both the halves equally so that the entire club can grow together.
When it comes to both of them working together, I believe scaling up of projects is something which Leos can do on a massive level by learning from Lions because they've got a lot more contacts, to scale up projects. Say, for example, a project with regards to a diabetes camp can be probably conducted in 20, 30 more areas with a lot more funding by Lions compared to what the Leos can probably. But I still believe that the potentials that both the organizations carry, the youth organization being the Leos and the Lions organization, they both are still, if I may say so, probably have just exploited 30% of their potential in terms of where they can go, how they can exploit projects. How
it gives a long list of things that they can still do. 70% you're saying is unutilized at this moment.
100%. That's what I believe. Yes, that's my opinion because I have had a chance to work with the Lions as well as the Leos, and I believe there's a lot of vacuum that both of them have. But yeah, I think there is a major scale up that both the Lions and the Leos can do together.
Also, on a fun note, recently there's this term that I've learned. There's something called as IST, Indian Standard Time, and then there is something called as LST, Lion Standard Time. What are your opinions on that?
Well, my opinions would just be that, let's just keep IST as IST and LST as LST. I guess don't need to mix them up. Well, LST has become a terminology just because, to be very fair to the people who actually carry this particular, if I may say so, a little bit of a curse, because I'm a part of the district also, and I also end up sometimes just getting onto the LST. Sometimes when you're a part of the district, you are catering to multitude of clubs. And with the fantastically organized traffic that we have in Bombay, it's difficult to kind of reach places on time. So yeah, we'll get better, and we will probably be matching up with the LST and the IST together very soon.
So that's an incredible journey. I know that you won 67 awards, which is not something that is very, very easy to do. So what is one thing that you think can be done in a way where you are a C-suite employee? You technically have achieved everything. What do you think you gain out of being a part of the Lions Club? And do you really think Leos and Lions together are bringing a very big impact? And anybody who's joining new today into the club, yes, they get that feeling of ki, yes, I'll be doing something very good for the society and I'm bringing a change. But at the same time, do you feel joining this club brings some personal level changes and some personal things to them as well?
Sure, I can give you like examples of two things which I believe will be a culminative example for both Leos and Lions out of 1,000 that I can quote. But of course, I'm sure that your podcast doesn't have that much amount of time. See, as you said very correctly, that being a C-suite employee, I've got access to pretty much everything, and it's my choice to join this organization or not. But giving you two examples, so one on the service front, of course, like you're doing a podcast during the COVID times, we had no access to go outside, so we started off a podcast online. And all we did was we basically started calling Lions from around India and around the world and started taking interviews in terms of their Lions Tech journey. One such Lion, after doing 130 episodes, I met who was from MP Nagda. And I have studied and done my engineering from MP, Madhya Pradesh. I had no idea that there's a place called Nagda in MP. He was a former CEO of a company in Dubai. And unfortunately, his child got affected with ADHD, a disease, for which he was prescribed by the doctors to come back to India because it's a much more social environment out here. He being a Lion, he came back here, saw the challenges his child was going with, and just had an idea that there must be a lot more children who would be going through this and might not be having these many facilities that my child has. So what he did was he opened up a center called SNE, and he took a grant from Lions International. Today, I believe after probably a decade of SNE, there are more than 60 to 70 children staying there on a daily basis. They're being groomed, they're being taken care of. They're a very big part of society, and they've got great skills. And they are all people affected with something or the other, but at the same time existing in this ecosystem and also probably growing in the best possible manner that they could, which probably might not have been the case if that particular Lion would have not taken this initiative.
Very true, yes.
And at the same time, what he did, he went a step ahead, and he saw that there's a problem of cochlear implants also in India, and the surgery costs around 7.5 to 8 lakh rupees. So a lot of lower strata of people in India were unfortunately not able to get that surgery done. So he basically formulated a bill which he got passed in at the center level, and post that now the surgeries can be done in a government hospital for free through an online section which he established as a website. So he used his tech power as a Lion and his CEO understanding as an individual of a management place, created a project report, sent it across to the Lions International, got the grant, post which he also got appreciated from the central government, and went a step ahead and made this particular change. And that's basically on the service front. On an individual level, I can give you my example. I used to do a lot of things in school, but very recently last year in a forum in Hyderabad, which was basically a Lions International Forum, I was told 40 minutes before the forum started that you need to host. 40 minutes before.
Yes.
And I was going to be hosting with someone who is an actual professional host. And I went and hosted a program on Lions International Forum, which basically, and why I was actually so nervous was because there was 3,000 Lions out there in the hall.
Cool, that was an insane journey and there's so much learning from you. Let's have a little bit of fun now.
Sure.
We'll have a rapid fire round. I'm hoping to have as fiery answers from you as possible and as realistic answers as possible. Less thinking, more answering. Good to go? Let's start.
Absolutely, yeah.
iOS or Android?
Oh, absolutely, Android.
Work from home or office?
Office.
Netflix and chill or night out?
Netflix and chill.
Yeah, boy.
Instagram or LinkedIn?
Instagram.
Leos or Lions? Who work harder?
That's a bit of a controversial answer, I guess, but I still believe I would give it to the Leos.
One Leo habit that annoys you the most.
Coming late for every single event.
That is the LST. Club politics, necessary evil or totally waste?
I think it's a total waste. Doesn't gain anything out of it.
Most overrated social service activity.
Oh, that's something that I need to think about. But then, if I just at the top of my head, I believe distributing food on a daily basis or probably just on a one-off basis is, I believe, very unproductive.
Okay. One project you secretly think was more hyped than impact.
Again, I think when you are distributing hunger packet, on one particular day, because I just believe that when you deliver those packets, those people actually are very grateful for that particular day. But somewhere down the line, they have this in their mind. I believe that okay, kal bhi koi aur aa jayega aur hame packets de jayega.
True.
Yeah.
So you're telling that makes them more dependent on you and less self-dependent?
I just believe that, yeah.
Awesome. Who's tougher to manage, your own team or the club team?
Oh, 100%. The work team is much easier to manage. Yeah,
Okay.
Leos are very difficult to manage. I just don't hype up my role, but it's very difficult actually.
Ever joined a project just for the photos?
Never.
Okay. One word you'd use for today's Leo's generation.
Flamboyant.
Okay. Why?
I just believe they have the ability to take the risks. They don't think twice.
One advice older lions don't take.
That they need to change.
Okay. What's something you think you do better than most people in the club?
I think I'm more aware about what's going on. I think that puts me in a position of ascendance a lot of times. Yeah.
Is being the center of attention a need or a natural result of being great?
I think I wouldn't know about it because I've never been one.
That is not true.
That's 100%.
Hosting a 3,000 lions.
Yeah, but then I was just basically ambushed into doing that. I was not someone who was the center of attraction there.
Marriage, necessary or gimmick?
No, it's necessary. I think it's very important.
So when are you?
Very soon. Stay tuned. Like a lot of people have been for years.
Is the lion ego a real thing or it is just misunderstood passion?
I think it's subjective when it comes to Leos for sure. Somewhere down the line, I wouldn't shy away from saying that yes, of course it is there, 100%. And it comes with a lot of tenure that they've had in the system, in the fraternity. But obviously somewhere it's justified, but most of the places it's not. So, but yeah, to answer your question, it's there for sure.
Thank you. That was the end of the round.
Thank you.
Loved your answers.
Went milder than I expected, actually. Wow. So the rapid fire is finished. I think it's time for me to take over for a bit. What do you say, Rahul?
Sure.
Yeah?
Please go ahead.
Okay. So, well, as you know, Rahul, I'm the advisor. So it's pertaining for me to kind of like ask you some questions also.
Sure.
And it's important because I love to know my Leos. You're one now. So I'll start off with the first and very most important question that I feel after being on the podcast for quite some time that we've been recording. So Rahul, podcast, how do you think about it? Is it just a curiosity or something which is trending in today's day and age, or is there an objective to this madness?
I would say it's a culmination of all of these things. It is happening because it's a trend, but then it's also the best way to put out the right information in today's age. There is definitely objective to build a great connection between Leos and Lions, which I feel I am a new person to the club and I don't know a lot of the Lions currently. And even people who are very, very old and matured into the organization might not know all of their Lions very nicely. But this one single podcast aims to bring all of that together. We can get to know all our Lions and get a good understanding and learn from them very easily. This is just not a trend, but this is a trend that has a meaning with it.
Fantastic. I think you should get into diplomacy very soon because you answered the questions correctly as well as incorrectly. So very nice. Okay, moving on. See, something very intriguing about you as an individual, since I got a chance to meet you before, is you wear a lot of multiple hats yourself. You're a content creator, you're a marketer, you're an entrepreneur. How the hell did you think about becoming a Leo, man?
I somehow resonate with you on this. Okay, I keep doing a lot of things and I see which works out the best for me. I'm one of those people who do not try to procrastinate, just do it. the same way we are doing this podcast. I'm very, very new to the club, and yet we are here. And joining Leo was something that a lot of my friends who are part of the Mumbai Carter Road were telling me that these are the things that they're doing and the real kind of impact they do.
Yeah.
And I do have that in my head that, yes, I want to make a change for the society. If you ask me a very definitive question, why did I join? I don't have an answer. But I know for a fact that I am at the right place. I am between the right people. I just have to figure out my right path. That's all.
I think that's fantastic. That's, you pretty much answered that like life. All of us are still processing what's going on, how things are supposed to hold out. But yeah, fantastic answer. I've got 2 more questions for you.
Sure.
So I'm not going to hijack your podcast, but I'm just going to be asking you 2 more questions.
Sure.
One, very intriguing questions. I believe it's going to help a lot of Leos also around. Tell me about one particular experience of yours in life, which you had in your early 20s, which you are in now, and you learned about that particular thing the hard way.
I would say it is that passion is very beautiful thing to have in life. But some days bills are greater. So you have to manage your bills. Try to stick to your passion, do what you do best, but then don't just get carried away with it. Make the money because you have your responsibilities on your head.
That's fantastic. Technically, you should have been the guest. You'll be answering questions beautifully. Okay, but moving on, my last question to you. Boardroom. You mentioned that it's fantastic, the name, obviously. But what does roaring mean to you in real life?
I would say, one, now that I'm part of this club, it's all about bringing a change and bringing a good change to the society. And roaring is not just about being the loudest, as I said. It's about being right and being rightly heard and taking the right actions. Roaring is just not about shouting and trying to be loud to state that you're right, but be right and be rightfully heard.
Fabulous. And here I thought I was the advisor. That's great advice, great answers, Rahul. Fantastic. Great job.
Thank you. That was a conversation to have. And you as the first guest, I am very happy that this podcast went better than what I had expected. I just have last few questions to ask you.
Sure.
And I really, really want to understand how that works out. Do you somewhere or the other feel that your paths cross when it comes to your career or being a lion? And do you think one of them has benefited in the other?
Oh, yes, most definitely. When I joined the organization for Lionism, I obviously told you the approach and the intent was very different. And I was very clear about what I wanted to get from the organization. And that was something which was achieved in the first 2 years itself. So, might as well, if people say that my journey has continued for such a long time, now it's almost around 7 years, and, continuing. And surely, I'm sure it's going to grow on for a long time. I could have left Lionism once I finished off with my agenda, with the organization. And I have no shame in saying that I had an agenda, because I believe everyone should, when they're joining an organization. It, as you very correctly mentioned, it's technically your right to ask, what am I getting from the organization?
Yes.
So it is important. But, somewhere down the line, the kind of contacts, the kind of networking that I've built over years in the system, being a C-suite employee, you, of course, have great connects and stuff. And you've got great access. But at the same time, I have been able to provide for people. Like, say, for example, a very simple example of me giving an opportunity and me getting an opportunity. I'll give you both. So very recently in my company, we were looking for interns. We had started off with this internship program, a full-fledged program where we were offering PPOs and stuff and all. It was a fantastically designed program. And I thought, okay, cool. We'll have to run campaigns and we'll have to kind of like get people on board and hire agencies to do this and stuff. And then I thought to myself, I've got like a whole bunch of 1,400 Leos in my district. I've got more than 3,500 in the entire multiple who would love to get an opportunity to work with my company. Called up a few people and I had 3 Leos working for me as interns. So I could provide an opportunity. And at the same time, very recently, I think around a year ago, we were looking to do a massive event with the All India Investors Association. I was looking to do something at Taj Aravali in Udaipur. And little did I know that the owner or the person who's actually on board of directors at the property is someone who actually is a former lion. I could just directly get in touch with him like a long lost uncle or something. And I had never talked to him before. And he helped me out with discounts which I could never think. If you are a part of Lions, I am not kidding. I have seen this myself. People who have not been active members, people who have not been very relative to the organization, still, if something wrong is gone, the Lions have always been the first ones to reach, the first ones to help. The level of camaraderie, the level of bonds, the level of help that you actually get, and the level of actual potent relationships that last for a long time is what you also get from this organization.
Do you think it also encourages people to learn from each other, and not only when it comes to service, but on their professional side also?
100%. I can give you one other example of this. There is a concept of specialty clubs also in Lions. So there's a club in our vicinity itself, in our district, which has more than 100 CAs. So if you're running a business, you don't need to go out to someone. In terms of learning, as I told you about the Lions Club, which has more than 100 CAs, there are a lot of Leos in a club called Leo Club of Mumbai Western Suburbs, who are predominantly from the CA branch, who are starting their careers. You can get tremendous amount of career advice and a lot of learning from the ones who are already established and are already Lions.
Awesome, that's great. It was too much of learning today, and I don't know how much of it will actually make to the final cut of the podcast. But I think the amount of things that I've learned within this span of our recording was tremendous amount of things. Unfortunately, we cannot go more deep into the things, but hopefully we'll have a part 2 of this coming up soon. And
it will be my pleasure, absolutely. And thank you, Rahul, for calling me. Thank you for having me as the first guest. Thank you for thinking of me as the first guest. And thank you to Leo Club of Mumbai Carter Road and Lions Club of Mumbai Carter Road for initiating such a fantastic podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Like a thunderclap, snaps and laughs, bridge the gap. It's not just talk, it's a loud roadmap. Roar it out, make it clear. The room's alive, the sound sincere. This is the Raw Room. You're welcome here.